Joining us live on the line is Stephen Fish, Professor of Political Science at the University of California, Berkeley. Professor Fish, thank you very much for being with us. We've got an emboldened and impatient President Trump here and a somewhat weakened President Putin. What are you looking for in these talks on Friday?
Well, I don't think Putin necessarily feels weakened. He knows that Trump is his man. Trump has been on Putin's side ever since 2016, when Trump was running for president and when Putin helped him out there. Now, it's true that in recent months, here into his second term in office, that Trump has expressed some frustration with Putin for Putin's unwillingness to make any concessions at all in terms of movement toward a peace deal with Ukraine. And Trump, remember, dreams of getting a Nobel Prize for ending this war, which is really what's underlying his motivation here. But I think what we have to keep in mind is how remarkable it is that an American president is going to be pressuring a democratic ally in Ukraine, in a country that helps guard European security, the security of American allies, to give up large chunks of its own territory that were seized, obviously illegally, in an invasion by a country that has been an enemy of the United States, at least during, say, the second half or so of Putin's term. I think Putin actually feels like he's in a strong position here. We'll see if Trump tries to actually get anything from Putin in return. Really, the only thing, Rich, that would possibly enable the Ukrainians to accept a deal where they cede large portions of their territory would be guaranteed membership in NATO. That actually would be something that might make the Ukrainians buy a deal where they had to give up territory. But Trump has never shown any interest in trying to foist that one on Putin. So we'll have to see what happens next week.
Well, yeah, and President Putin's also repeatedly said that that's something that he never wants to see. Do you imagine that some of Ukraine's European allies might intervene in this and say, we don't expect Ukraine to have to give up some of its sovereign territory any longer than it has to?
I would expect that. I would expect that from several European countries. They know now that their security is at risk from Russia. They have seen what Russia's done to Ukraine. They've seen the United States become much more tepid about their own security under President Trump, much more tepid than it was under other presidents. And I think they will actually be pushing back against any kind of deal that requires the Ukrainians to give up a great deal of territory. Let's remember this too, Rich, is that Putin's demands go far beyond giving up territory in the Donbass, which your reporter just spoke about a few minutes ago. Putin wants to demilitarize Ukraine. He says Zelensky has to go. He says all of Ukraine is his. He said that a few weeks ago again. He said all of Ukraine is ours. If anybody thinks that Putin is going to take some territory and then take his toys and go home and foster peace, they haven't been paying attention and they don't know much about Putin. The more you give Putin, the more aggressive he becomes. Concessions will just lead to more demands. Perhaps he'll pause the war for some time and use the time to rearm and regroup at home, but he is going to continue this invasion of Ukraine. He said he's going to. He's acted like he's going to. And I think we need to acknowledge that anything short of a redoubled American and European commitment to Ukrainian security, including the promise of NATO membership, is not going to stop Putin at all. You might pause for a moment, but his big goal is still conquering all of Ukraine, which he sees as vital to Russia's national interests.
And briefly, Professor Fish, this invitation for President Trump to visit Russia, do you expect that we'll see an American president on Russian soil for the first time in more than a decade?
Well, if there's any president that would go to visit Russia, even as an American president who would go to visit Russia, even with Russia acting against American interests and against the interests of its allies, it would be President Trump.
Okay. Stephen Fish, Professor of Political Science at University of California, Berkeley. Professor Fish, thank you very much.
My pleasure.